Welcome to Hedgebrook's Cottage Chat. I have the honor of hosting these joyous conversations. I'm already smiling, we're already chuckling backstage, and amplifying the brilliant minds of our ever growing alumni community. I love these folks so much, and I love being in conversation with them. Thank you all so much for joining me this month as we talk about Black joy, about connection, about how we know each other and why we should if we don't. My Hedgebrook alumna guests today are Elizabeth de Souza and Samantha Thornhill. Liz is a writer and educator who's doing amazing things. Her work explores the mystifying link between artistic genius, culture, and psychology. Already, probably way smarter than me. That's what I'm guessing. She's our 2020 Rona Jaffe Foundation Fellow, and she's a 2020 Barbara Smith Writer in Residence at 12 Literary Arts. Elizabeth holds an MFA in creative writing from George Mason University, and her award-winning essays have appeared in Southern Indiana Review, Callaloo, and Solstice Literary Magazine. When she was at McDowell, she molded 10 years of research into the proposal for her first book, Sleeping in the Fire, The Black Artist in America. We're going to talk about this one. The overarching project isn't just a book. It includes a book, a traveling exhibition, and a short documentary film, just a few other things. In 2018 and 19, Sleeping in the Fire was a finalist for the Creative Capital Award. That is a big deal. The Oxford American Jeff Baskin Writers Fellowship, and the Mary C. Moore Nonfiction Award. People are waiting for this book, looking forward to this whole project rolling out, and I can't wait to talk about it. Also with us today, though, is Samantha Thornhill. I'm going to tell you how I know Samantha myself, but how you know her is because she is an internationally traveling poet, educator, and curator from Trinidad and Tobago. She's been invited to share her versatile works in a variety of contexts across the US, Europe, that's not a word, US, Europe, Africa, and the Caribbean. After graduating with her MFA in poetry from the University of Virginia, Samantha moved to New York City, where for the past decade, she's been teaching poetry to actors at the Juilliard School. Additionally, she teaches creative workshops to the elderly, as well as urban and rural youth. 17 literary journals and anthologies have featured her poems, and in 2010, Scholastic Books published her Ode to the Folk Legend Odetta in picture book form. In 2014, Russell Simmons hired her to curate and produce poetry videos for his YouTube vertical, All Deaf Poetry. Samantha is currently collaborating with filmmaker Zach Murphy on a documentary about young women with incarcerated fathers. She is the founding curator of Poets in Unexpected Places, which is profiled in the New York Times for the dynamic pop-up poetry performances in public spaces. Since the birth of her son in 2015, Samantha has been traveling the world and writing articles for Femdi, a website for women created by women. Also, this bio is old because Samantha be publishing children's books and they don't even mention that in here, really. So there's been quite a few that have come out since we got this bio, Samantha. We're going to need an update. But we will be right back with both of them. My name is Amber Smith, and I am the program director for Hedgebrook, as well as an alumna of their Writer in Residence program. I'm so thrilled to be your host for this conversation, which is streaming live Thursday, February 17th, 2022. Hey.
Hey. Hi.
Look at that. We did the fancy thing. I gotta say,
I'm having too much fun over here. Even starting yet, I'm laughing.
I know. I love it. I love that we come in with smiles. That's my favorite thing. Hello, Black folk. Happy Black Futures Month.
Happy Black Futures Year.
Happy Black Futures Year. Say that. Say that. Welcome, Liz. Welcome, Samantha. So thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for being willing to come in to conversation about Black joy, about connection. I want to tell you briefly, because you don't know this, I don't think, maybe you do. Samantha and I met way back when we were both slam poets. I don't know if you remember this, But in another life, Samantha came here to Seattle and featured at the Seattle Slam, and I was one of the hosts. Um, that was, it feels like eons ago. Meanwhile, you've gone on to do everything else. Are you still doing performance poetry at all?
On Clubhouse. I'm like, I have not performed on a stage for maybe a couple of years now. Well, for obvious reasons, and I've stayed away from it all. But I've been going on Clubhouse and performing my heart out.
I love that. It's like your TikTok, but not.
Yeah, it's not visual, it's all audio.
Yeah.
No distractions, it's just straight poetry, and it's been helping me to get my food back.
That's a Pittsburgh train. Sorry about that.
Oh.
I'm in Pittsburgh. Yeah, I tried to talk to them, but they was going to keep going. Yeah.
I love it. So you're still performing poetry, but you're also writing and doing all kinds of projects. And we're going to come back to that. But I don't know if you know this, Samantha, but the reason Liz and I connected is because she reached out about Camilla Aisha Moon as well. And Aisha is the reason why Liz came to Hedgebrook. So you don't know this, but the two of you are deeply connected by the same connector person, which is, we're going to talk about her as well. So Liz, tell us a little bit about your experience coming to Hedgebrook through Aisha.
Right. So I met Aisha at McDowell in 2019, and it was my first residency. And her, I don't know, 101st. And we clicked and hung out and got real tight. And we were both there, I think it was 6 weeks or so. By the time we left, that was just, we just kept flowing that way. And while we were at McDowell, which was a wonderful experience, McDowell was great, she kept telling me, I think you would like Hedgebrook. And I'm like, this woman don't understand. Like, it took a lot for me to get here. I got 2 kids. I had never left them. Like, this was a once in a lifetime. I didn't see myself really, going to any other residency. That was the accomplishment, that I had arrived at McDowell and had some time. And she just brought up Hedgebrook several times. And then she would send, the little, when Hedgebrook would send the thing, she would forward it. By then we were back and forth all the time. She's like, just saying, girl, So she is the reason that I came to Hedgebrook, and Hedgebrook is incredible. I mean, I remember thinking, should I pack a bra? Which was already the first time I had ever thought that. sorry. But anyway,
no, I love that.
Going to a place that is prepared for women, with women in mind. That was my first time doing that, and it was just for that alone. And it just so happened that when I arrived at Hedgebrook in February of 2020, the pandemic was not yet happening that we knew of. And it evolved during my time there. So in the month or so that I was at Hedgebrook, by the time I left, we were fully into pandemic mode. So it was just a special time for many. It would have been a special time anyway, but it's just got this place in my heart and soul. And then, of course, because Aisha was the reason I went. I mean, she really was like, she prodded me down to the day. She was like, do you have an application in? Because now's the time, So anyway, it's just,
speaking of which, our applications are open.
Yes, right, so many things. And you probably, I mean, I look forward to hearing. She's such an encourager.
Yeah.
And anyway, enough said about that. But yeah, very special. Hedgebrook is, as everybody knows, just its own magical thing. So
for sure. I'm hearing that there's a little bit of an echo, so we're going to mute on, which is not as natural of a conversation as I hoped. But if we can, maybe it's coming, I don't know. Anyway, so I want to keep going, but I wanted to say that I think when you were talking about, what did you send me? I swear, you sent me something that she had sent you. You found the letter, right?
Yes.
You found the letter that she wrote to you and it was at Hedgebrook waiting for you?
She sent me a care package to Hedgebrook. I mean,
right. The one place.
Right? I don't have to even say.
Yeah.
she sent me this care package that she had, and I knew that I had something she had written about Hedgebrook, but I thought it was in my emails, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And right after I had impulsively reached out to Amber because we were in touch about something else, and I was like, hey, you know, Aisha, I had this planner. Don't laugh, y'all. 2020 planner. You know, they say this is like the most worthless thing. They say the 2020 planner because nothing happened.
Right.
My
All those
very good
plans
friend
went away.
Amy gave me this amazing planner, and then I decided to, you know, try to inspire myself here.
Come on, Octavia Butler. I see it.
Right, right.
Uh-huh.
And then the thing has been sitting around since then, and I happened to open it up right after we had connected, and all this stuff came out. Aisha had sent me these things here,
Wow.
these postcards of all the Black women. I mean, she just did everything.
That's amazing.
She just did everything. She sent me something with my picture on it, and she had went and found some obscure stuff I wrote that I forgot I wrote it, and
Wow.
put the quotes inside here. I mean, if I can ever encourage anybody 1/10 of the amount that she just naturally encouraged people, because that's what she did.
Mm-hmm.
She saw the thing that was important and would zoom in on it, and then just went out of her way. I was overwhelmed. And then she wrote a wonderful, I'll find it while we're talking about other stuff, but she wrote about what it was like to be at Hedgebrook. She gave me instructions. She told me what to do there, dance and do this. And I mean, what was it? How are you going to come back after that? Like, yeah, it worked out. Like, no, it's going to work out.
Right. Oh my
Anyway,
gosh.
yeah.
Samantha, come on. Tell us your story.
That is so Moon. What I love about her is that some people call her Camila, some people call her Aisha, some people call her Moon, some people call her Camila Moon, some people call her Aisha. Like, every permutation of her name works. But I met Moon at Cave Canem. I met Moon at Cave Canem in 2003. It was a really monumental year there was like a crew of us that came in at the same time, like Ada Solis Germay. And so like a few of us, it was just this like discovery of all this Black poetness, you know. It was incredible for us to just know that we exist, you know. And I think that's a lot of what this is about, is just the recognition of each other's existence. And people are portals into another life. Like, you meet someone and you walk through the door that they are, and you enter out on the other side of another place. And that's who she was for me. We moved to New York at the same time. And like, she was my New York. Like, so many of my poems were inspired by dinners I had with her, with us cutting up. You know, she used to come over to my place. She was that friend that came over just to chill. Like, New York City could be very much like a doctor's office. Your schedule looks like a doctor's office sometimes. You know, you have an hour to do this, you have an hour to do that, and then you're off to the next thing. And she was that friend that came over and chilled and spent the night. And she never meant to spend the night, but she always fell asleep sitting up on my couch. And she always fell asleep mid-sentence. And I always had to just end up putting that blanket over her. And, all right, sis, because at some point she fell asleep while I was telling her some story. And you could see her trying to hold on. She's like nodding, and I'm like, there she goes.
Off she goes.
I would just take the customary blanket and throw it over her, and you know, and like, this is what we did. We had a really intimate friendship. She was vulnerable with me. I was vulnerable with her, and that encouragement that Liz is talking about, it's like, you know, it's amazing what you hear about people after they pass on, and the continuities, you know, and like, that was so present for so many people that I heard talk about her, was just how encouraging she was. And Liz, what you were saying, like, it's that thing she zeroes in on. It's something that she knows that you might waver at, or something that she knows you need and you're dressing back. And she speaks right into that void. For you to get up off your butt and do what you had to do. And sometimes she needed that as well, you know. So she's just such a majestic human being. she's like a legend. Like that's how I feel about her. Like I knew a legend. Like there is no wound to make a woman like this again. So I just love that we're talking about her, and I didn't know where this conversation would go, but I just love that she's in our space, she's in our remembrance as we open this conversation, because she was just such an important person. And Elizabeth, I now remember where I saw you, and this was after her passing. A few of us came on Zoom and did a tribute for her family, which they played at the funeral. And that's where I was looking at you like, this sister.
I know this is.
Yes. So a bunch of us came, and we shared stories or poems that we wrote, or poems that she loved, or poems that she wrote, and just made a beautiful montage. And so this is where I met Elizabeth.
Yeah. I love that. That's so okay. Two things that I have to make sure you both know about each other and about Hedgebrook and me here at Hedgebrook is that so many people I know knew her. So, and I have been sitting with this sense of loss because I didn't get to experience her, because it's been such an outpouring. I mean, I can name people who are like, did you hear about this? Do you know how much she loved Hedgebrook? Do you know how much she talked about Hedgebrook? She told everybody about and she's in one of our videos on our website. Like she is, like I told Liz when she read me the thing that Aisha sent her, I was like, it's like I can hear her in the trees. This is her voice among the trees. I went for a walk and I was just like, wow, she's here. And I wanted you to know that. I also wanted you to know that Liz, we connected because we talked about doing a jubilee. There was another Hedgebrook sister who passed last year, Lee, who we were like, how do we hold up these people? How do we create space? And Liz wanted to do this for Aisha, but I also think that like, this needs to be a regular annual thing where we celebrate this connection. So this is just a taste of what's to come. And Samantha, I was like, you guys got to know each other, because Liz has a list of people and she's like, I don't even know these people. And I'm like, are you Aristotle, like all these people? I'm like, I know of these people at least. We need to bring them together and just hold her to the light, hold this connection that can be made, that's really a magical one. As you said, Liz, I mean, I constantly think of like, if you're there for a month, more than likely you bled, sweated, cried, snored, slobbered. You've left your DNA in the Hedgebrook land, in the cottages. And so I think of that returning a lot. And I love that she keeps returning. I'm like, wow, I missed out on knowing somebody who changed lives. It was very, very apparent. And so thank you, Moon. I will think of you when I look at that almost full moon tonight. And I am so glad both of you shared that memory, those memories, so many memories. And I want to make a platform to share more. So specifically about her. But I did want to pinpoint something that you said. Both of you talked about her opening a door to opportunities for you, or her holding space for you to like be pushed in a way that you needed to grow. You didn't say it like that, but I'm paraphrasing here. So I wonder if you would both talk about, like, you're in different stages with different projects. You've got a million multimedia projects going on. Please tell us as much as you want about it. I have specific questions if you don't get there. So don't worry if you don't cover it, because I'll get back to it. But what are the things that you wish you knew? What are the resources that you wish you had when you were starting out? What would be the one gem maybe that you would make sure to share with anybody you were trying to mentor or encourage? That's a big question. Don't all jump in at once.
I'm just being polite. I got I got all kinds of thoughts. I'm just trying to, pretend that I have some kind of,
Go ahead, Liz.
Samantha
does this thing that I love and admire, but it's not it's not me. I tried to be like, ooh, take a breath. And she has such patience. I see it in her like work in everything she does. I'm like, wow, your patience. I don't have it. Liz and I both don't have it. So Samantha, you're gonna have to double dutch in. You're gonna have to get in where you fit in because we'll keep talking. Okay, Liz, go.
And I love listening to you speak as well. I mean, poets, y'all are the best. I mean, you want to just excerpt the words as they're coming from your mouth and capture them. And it's funny because Aisha used to tell me I was a poet, and she said, yeah, you just don't claim us. But she would say that.
I don't claim that set.
She would say that. But I think what I would have liked to have known way back whenever that was, is you don't have this kind of avalanche of thoughts and ideas and responses just to have them, just to be sitting there feeling like it's all too much, right? So some people, creativity, I think of it kind of as a spectrum, of course, meaning we all have it, but how we relate to our own creativity. Where do we see it in our lives? What do we see it as? For many people coming up, if you're coming up in the regular school systems and all, it's kind of an inconvenience. It's something to work around. You're not conforming, you're not naturally conforming. And this is a lot of my work is interested in that spectrum of artistry that we all have. I don't think, some of us have no choice. Like, okay, I done found out I'm an artist now. This is what I got to do. I tried it over there in the shoe store. I couldn't sell shoes or whatever. I tried it in not to say it like that, but and it's like, it's not given to you to make your life difficult. It has its purpose, but you can go years and years for whatever reason. You can be born into an artist family and not recognize your own artistry or what you should be doing with it. The advice that I would give someone and that I would have loved to hear is those things, you have those intuitions, those insights, those desires to speak on things. You get mad at stuff, this is you're seeing hypocrisy here, there. I mean, of course, I'm describing every teenager, but that those insights are given for a reason. Everybody has them for a reason. What that reason is may differ, and how you relate to it, but it's not a disability, so to speak, because it can show up almost like something you have to work around. You gotta work that out. You can't be yourself. You can't use it in the way that's meaningful to other people to you. So to find that place where you can contribute and also be nurtured is very possible. It's just that when it comes to art, and I'm lumping all the arts into one basket, it's trickier. It's trickier than if you have a different aspiration. So don't know what kind of sense that made. It didn't make, but that's what I think of when I think of what I would have liked to hear, because I was well on my journey before I started sifting through that and sorting through and saying, oh, okay, so that's what it is. I'm an artist. I didn't think of myself that way. And it's, for better or for worse, it's what's right with you. It's what's wrong with you. It's the whole thing, but it's a positive and good thing. And there's a place for you. So when you were talking about, you came together and recognized each other and you were able to kind of trade off, that's validation in of itself. Just being in, because it doesn't happen all the time, just being in, like the way we are right now, being in conversation with other people who are living their lives through this creative lens. There's the art that you create, and there's also just your day-by-day existence. And Aisha said to me once, a lot of people write poetry. Not everybody is living as a poet. And she didn't say that to be shady. She was just like, this is what I have. Like, I'm living my life and seeing the world through the lens of a poet. And that's not everybody, and I understand that, but there's a difference between the craft and learning the craft, and actually that's your day-by-day experience. And I'm zipping it up now.
Oh my gosh, but didn't you say a word though? Samantha, come on.
End scene with that. Wow. Moon, I just love how Moon just is so present in this conversation. I love this question. It definitely made me sit back like, like what would I have loved to have known when I first started out? And I think what would have been most helpful for me was permission to practice nothingness. Because, this is, it's a very masculine society where it's like, do, go after it, go get it, go get it, go get it. And there's this like dark, divine feminine inside of us that knows every damn thing already. Don't have to search outside of ourselves for anything at all, and only needs to receive, only needs to sit quietly to receive what it already has. And I feel like I spent so much of my early years going after it. And I'm just curious now if I had come across someone like Moon earlier on in my travels. She, I think she was really great about was sort of cultivating her own inner silence. And so like when she walked into a space, she had that gravity. Like she had this like big world inside of her that was like always moving. Even in her stillness, she was always churning, but it was her world. And I think that I would have benefited immensely from understanding that I was enough. Like I didn't have to go after everything. Like I already have everything. It's just a matter of becoming the magnet, and that there's so much actual productivity in resting. And this is what Hedgebrook taught me. It was coming to Hedgebrook. I have 5 weeks here in this place to do what? Show up at 5 o'clock for dinner and soak myself in that clawfoot tub for real? Like when there was just something so liberating about like your only obligation is to show up to eat. You know what a statement that is for women? I couldn't believe no one's looking over my shoulder to find out how productive I'm being. No, Hedgebrook doesn't care about that. Just show up. Show up. Just make it here. Make it here and make it 5 o'clock every day to commune with your fellow sisters and go back into your hole and do whatever it is you want to do. And so that sort of permission and the poems that came out of me at that time were unlike any other poems I'd written before. And these were odes. I'd already started writing a few odes, but Hedgebrook, I tuned into the blackberry bushes and it was fig season, the slugs on the ground. And I was so present at Hedgebrook, and it created a different type of poem. And that was a lesson and a blessing that remained with me to this day.
Did you find that you were actually like way more like it was almost like everything was just waiting for you to give it space?
It was incredible. It
like would pour out of you, and then it would stop, and you felt. Did you learn to feel at ease with it? Because it took a while, but I got there. Where? Go ahead.
To feel at ease, yes, I started to feel at ease with just what ebb and flow really means, because we hear ebb and flow, we say ebb and flow a lot, but we really focus more on the flow. Like we're not really like that interested in the ebb, but the ebb is like real business. The ebb, there's like a lot going on inside that ebb, the ebb is the ebb gets complicated, and it doesn't have to be as complicated if you just understood that this is go to the beach and watch the rhythm of life happen right in front of you, and understand that that's at play. That's the underpinning of the universe, is that ebb and flow. And once we sort of stop trying to like control everything to our liking and realize, oh, like I am part of a divine orchestra, I am just one string of one instrument, then it's just so much about perspective and mindset, and understanding that we are our world, and we are of a world, an interconnected world. And there's so many moving parts to our existence, and that we're co-creating this existence with each other. So sometimes we just have to wait our turn.
Ooh, yes. Come on, Liz, you're nodding your head.
No, I have so many thoughts about it. So, for whatever reason, I love what you said. I love what you said about that we have the knowing already, and this kind of, culture of productivity that we're all touched by, no matter who you. I mean, look, I had a PhD in chill from the moment I was born. Maybe it's because I'm the second child. I was always like, let's chill. We need to chill. Oh, are we going to chill? Like, I just always actually spent a lot of time twisting myself into various contortions to be able to chill, because you can't chill. Life is not set up for you to chill. And when I say chill, I don't mean lazy. I mean, like you said, the ebb and flow, some people need more time to center themselves. I'm one of those people. And if I fly around, it just ain't going to work. I've done it, it's quite unattractive, but people, those that know me have seen me in that state of being. It's so bad, but that's the natural way. And the world isn't set up for you to have that, at least our culture and our, the way that we experience things here. And I always fought tenaciously for that. I knew I had to have it, but I didn't know why. I didn't understand that it was part of an artistic practice. It was just like, hey, that's me, So it was quite eye-opening to find out, yes, this is part of what I'm supposed to be doing, because there's really nothing worse than an artist without an art that they are.
Ooh, Artist Way talks about them shadow artists real heavy. There's a reason. Yeah, for sure.
I think there's a lot of people, because we don't have a clear path. And it's like, you're a dreamer. You art? My father was a visual artist. Oh my gosh. If he told me once, he told me a million times, please don't be an artist. Go make some money for yourself. And art chose me, and he had his whole thing. So we by osmosis, that gets into us. Mm-hmm. So I guess it was crossed off the list in my mind, but I didn't even know what that meant. He painted. I knew I wasn't painting, but there is no clear path. That's why I am very fascinated by this idea that we don't yet understand the real place of art. We don't understand the station of art. We don't understand, we're still, obviously, it's a commodity. Like, where can I buy your art? Mm-hmm. Or if I play the flute, I better be the best flute player, or else where am I going with that? I can't just be there playing it because it's what I should be doing, on and on and on. There's so many things. But once I started understanding that, then the other things fell into place. And no, I'm not just chilling because I want to be lazy. No, it's the ebb and flow, as you're saying. It's the yin and yang. And you do have to produce. You can't just sit around thinking deep thoughts, stroking your, chin here. Oh, yes, the landscape. No, there is the productive side of it. And Hedgebrook was one of the few places on earth that I was able to guilt-free, with nothing hanging over me, like, this is my time. I will be deep into whatever I'm supposed to be into. I don't feel, I want to get a little exercise. I want to do this. I want to do that. I want to put my hands on the keyboard if I can, but I'm walking into those paths. I'm dancing right here in the woods, right? And feel no type of funny way about it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, you all got me in my feelings. I'm thinking so many thoughts. I'm thinking about dismantling, like, okay, so I'm dealing with some grief myself, and I'm like, how much of this is built around the idea that I was supposed to build towards this thing, this kind of life, and like how much of the grief that I'm feeling is actually the guilt and shame of like giving up my alone time and my creative freedom to this thing that I thought I was supposed to be building. Anyway, that's my personal business. I'm going to take it to my therapist. But you really got me. I mean, we could also reconvene and go deep if you want to know my business. But
I do.
Wow, you okay? Don't sign up for it. Don't say it. You don't mean it, because I.
We need both. We do need to produce. It's not like just sit around for years and years and whatever. The productivity is needed too, but the equality of the other time. And all the great writers knew this. All the great artists knew this some way or another, I think. To give some depth. I mean, when you cook a meal, yeah, you can throw something together and it can be tasty, but when you cook with depth, when there's layers of flavor,
Right.
That's something you did something on Monday. You came back on Tuesday and moved something over there. You set that up for Thursday. You thought you was going to do it Friday. It didn't happen. And you pulled that broth out of the freezer, and now you really have something. Now you have something that has layers, that has texture, that has depth. So, finding that balance is not easy. And the things I know I'm hard on myself. I say all this and chill and all that. And I wish, it would be nice to just do that and not be hard on yourself. Right. But I don't think it's possible to live in the world that we live in and not be impacted by these constant messages that tell us we need to do this, we need to do that, we have to collect these things, we have to, the where we are in the, what did somebody tell me once, where those questions to just determine where are you in the rat race? Okay, are you above or below or equal to me with the rat? I mean, it's also ridiculous, but this takes up a good amount of time, right?
Right.
So I think when we come in community and we're able to drop that, or at least acknowledge it. And back to Aisha again, I have so many images of her in my mind that are wonderful, but one of them that always is very touching was at a reading. I think it was when she first heard me read my work. We'd been hanging out. We might have exchanged a few things. She sat down and just closed her eyes. And I swear, if she didn't turn into one big ear, it was like it was humbling to have anybody listen to your work in that way, to pay that much attention. And not in a way that's for people to see. It was just what she was like, okay, I'm going to hear this. Like nothing will stop me from hearing, and it's always a mixed, when I share that she listened that way to me, she listened that way to anything that she knew there was value. It wasn't like, I'm so great. She saw the potential in there and said, I'm going to hear it. I want to hear this. And it was one of the most humbling moments for me, even though I saw, you're reading, so you're like, okay, I'm not going to look again. I just saw that real quick. I'm going to stay on what I'm doing here. But the way she did that, if we can give that to each other, when people are sharing, and with art, it's particularly vulnerable, right? Because art is basically a cry for accompaniment. It's saying, hey, see things the way I see things for a minute. Samantha, I watched one of your videos online back when you, Amber, when you asked us to come. And it was the one where you were with your son and you're pushing the baby carriage across the street. And I felt the tears well up in my eyes, just the sight of it. Anyway, sorry to jump in
No.
into another time. But when you feel the moment, those images, the words, and anyway, which video I'm talking about. I'm not eloquently quoting it.
Yes,
my mommy heart just was like, vroom.
Yes, and I wanted to bring up motherhood. I mean, that was a poem called "The Most Beautiful Accident," a single parent's ode, and very special poem to me. And I was able to make a small video, like a video to accompany it. But I was just thinking about what Amber shared. That we do. We have these moments in our lives where we do have to we feel like we have to sacrifice, that time for self to do things in the world. And maybe that's part of the ebb and flow too, that there are these epochs, in our lives where we're giving selfless service to our dreams and we're siphoning away time from ourselves. And that's not unnatural either. And that's I think that's actually part of the ebb and flow. And I could say this as someone that had an unplanned pregnancy and chose to have a child, in a situation that was not optimal, it was not ideal. And what it caused me to do was to, it sent me on a traveling journey where I didn't have the stability, the financial stability to stay in one place. And that carriage across the street, like that was me and my son, like in cities all over the US. When he turned from when he was 3 months up until last year, February, we lived in, from 3 years to 3 months to basically 5 years old, we lived in over 40 places. And this was not a period of productivity for me. It was a period of chaos.
That's right.
And you know, I poured all of my energy into him and to keeping us afloat and to reading 20 books to him a day, not reading books of my own, you know, teaching him how to talk, hold a spoon. Like all of these things siphoned my own creativity at the time. But what I realized is now I'm in a different place. I'm in Trinidad. I'm settled. I've been living here for a year. This is the longest that I've lived anywhere in one place since 2015. And this is why when we were talking before, I'm in a great place because, you know, I've arrived at exactly where I'm supposed to be. And what I know is that nothing went anywhere. like all the stuff that's been wanting to come out, it's sitting there right patiently, waiting for me to tap into it. It hasn't flown to another person. What's meant for me to express is waiting for me to express it. And so when you arrive at that place, that flow, you know, where it's like you can choose yourself now, it's going to be all there.
Yes, say that. I am manifest, and I hope you all heard that. It is if it's your story to tell, it'll be there. I also think that there's such a misconception. People don't understand that when I say that you traveled across the, like you did this with a child strapped to you most often, or finagling. We're all moms here, finagling what it means to be childless for even an hour, so I can have a conversation on this streaming platform. Like how much that was. Liz was like, you know, as soon as I sat down, they were like, "Oh, is it time for us to get some attention?" That's how I was like, my kid is literally somewhere else on purpose so that I can do this. And we we often feel so alone in that sacrifice.
Yes.
We often feel like it's a sacrifice, and then we feel guilty for for feeling like it's a sacrifice. And so it's super, like it's complex and it's compounded. But you mentioned something, and I want to make sure we touch at least a little bit on the work that you're doing right now, and make sure everyone knows about this. Both of you have really exciting things about to happen. So, and you said surrender, I think, or what came up was this idea of surrender, Samantha. And I thought about how both of you doing collaborative work with other artists, that's a whole level of surrender with now what is yours. What is like, you're like, I've been holding this, now here's my story. And then somebody else is going to come along and be like, okay, but what if we do it like this? You know, so talk about your work, what you're doing, what you're excited about, and also what it's like to collaborate and surrender into that process. Samantha, why don't you go first?
All right. What am I doing? I have a few irons in the fire. I'm a book angel, so I help people. I help people with their books. So I have a few like exciting clients where I'm just helping to bring their books to fruition. I'm also writing children's books all the time. I have a few great relationships with several publishers, and anytime I open my computer, it might be an email asking me to write some cool, exciting kids book. I have a few like that I have here, but the one that I feel really passionate about is this is a book of my creation. It's called A Card from My Father.
Oh.
And this is a trilogy about a young girl whose father is incarcerated. And in this book, she doesn't know that he's incarcerated, but it's Father's Day, and it's like, write the Father's Day card, and she's like, where's my dad? So it sends her kind of on a quest to understand what happened to her father, and it takes her into the prison system. And so I'm really into writing books that really like stories that really affect kids' lives. And I also just finished working on a spiritual journal. It's an aspirant. It's called the Aspirant Spiritual Journal, and it's basically a spiritual guided journal or workbook. And it's funny because not any of the questions have anything to do with like quote unquote spirituality or belief. It's all about self-awareness. So the whole book is taking the writer through prompts. These are for people that might not necessarily write. They know they have an aspiration. They don't feel really aligned with their aspiration or their purpose. So it's a book to help people to tap back into who they actually are. So it's like a 100-page workbook that I created, which was a sort of fusion of a bunch of the writing exercises that I've been using in classrooms for the past 20 years of teaching. So that felt really good to me to put all of this in one place in a format that was different. I designed it myself. It's something I've never done before, which was exciting to like break into a new craft. So like designing it the way that it looked in my mind was really fulfilling. And so I'm using that in conjunction with the course that I'm building around it. I'm as Amber knows, I've very much like risen up as an intuitive in the last few years. This is, even when Elizabeth said intuition earlier, it's like, ding, I just feel so excited when I hear people say that word, like intuition, because I feel like that's the treasure trove of all things. Like that's when we access that, like we don't need anything else. Like we know how to navigate our ship once we're tapped into our intuition. And that's big for me because I skew cerebral, and intuition has nothing to do with intellect. It's when it's that place, it's that part of us that knows before we understand why we know. And so I've
What we
been
think ourselves out of.
Yes.
You
can talk yourself out of it.
Knowing.
yes,
So
yes.
true.
So this intuitive journey has led me to start giving readings. I give oracle readings, and I work with my husband, who's a dream medium. So he understands the language of dreams. So we work together, and then we've become a magnet for other intuitive shamans, mediums, sound priestesses, like people who are doing amazing light work. And so what I'm really building behind the scenes is an intuitive talent agency called Aspirant. And the idea is that, it's just where a bunch of healers who have an affinity for one another come together, and we decide that we're on a joint mission to help humanity to align with itself during these times. And what that looks like is collaborative. So what we're talking about, the spirit of collaboration, starting out with doing readings with my husband was quite a collaboration and all in itself. It's a different type of collaboration than the ones that I was accustomed to. Like, Amber, as you know, like back in New York, I used to work with Valerie June. I used to meld my poems with her music. I worked with another musician named Mimi Jones. I've often worked with musicians on the craft, but on this side of life, it's actually really like, we're really like in people's lives. People are vulnerable with us. They're telling us what's going on and where they need help, and we have to use our intuition to tell them just the right words. It's very delicate work. So there is another level of vulnerability there and surrender there, to trust who you work with. And what I'm working on doing is just bringing healers together that we can build a type of trust so that we can learn how we can work together on various readings. Like, for instance, I have a healer who her name is Mona Webb. She's a medical intuitive. This is someone that can literally scan your body with her energy and can locate a place where, say you're having like health problems somewhere, and you tell her, something's wrong with my spleen. You don't have to tell her anything else. She can actually go straight to your spleen and tell you what's going on, why it happened. Maybe an ancestor might come to her and tell her you need to eat more watermelon, or like whatever it is you need to like ameliorate or mitigate the issue, or what you need to tell your doctor. She does that. But what happens when I do a reading with her? So it's a thing where we're looking at different ways as healers of collaborating. And this workbook is sort of like kind of like the jump off, because the real vision is to create like a sort of online school where all of my practitioners teach courses. It's almost like Professor X's School for the Gifted.
Come on, X. I was like, this is sounding. Actually, it's a really weird way to really funnel and channel woo into superpower. Like, how do you make a woo gift, a woo? Like we've departed into this thing, and your timing could not be more spectacular astrologically. I'm sure with this Jupiter in Pisces, we're going into a Pluto return. I won't get all woo woo on my woo woo, but trust me, it resonates so deeply, and like I feel like I'm hearing people being called to like a deepening. Like there's a creative that they're called to, and like Liz was saying, from a very young age, they know something. But then there's like a deepening that's like what they're offering back to our broken world is that is emerging now. And it's emerging to those people who surrendered to the calling in the first place. Like, not everyone, of course, but like many poets, many writers are starting to look at what does it mean to bring my creative discovery of healing and sharpen it and deepen it so that it could be a tool for healing that other people maybe could access. And that's so beautiful. It's so necessary. And we need light. We need light bringers. So bring on the school of
Thank you so much. I never considered myself woo-woo, but it's like, what's happened to me? Friends of mine who, this is like traditionally not my thing at all. like I've been very much in the physical realm, try to go after it, but I had a mystical experience that changed my whole reality. And so now I'm here on the other side saying, yeah, like there's this whole unseen world that interacts with us. So it's great to just be more aware. I just feel much more aware of the life behind the veil, and like life as it is. And so much of life is an internal journey. And if you're not right internally, it colors everything. So it's just about working on yourself. Once you work on yourself, everything else falls into place, because you'll know how to navigate whatever comes your way. And that's my main thrust behind this workbook. And all of the work I do is just to lead people back to themselves. And I hope that this is what I try to do as a poet in sharing this slice of myself. Hopefully it makes you more intimate with yourself.
Oh, okay. Yes. And you know what? You're right. There's something diminutive about saying it's woo-woo. And I roll my eyes because I expect other people to roll their eyes. When I talk about my woo-woo, so I'm like, I know, astrology is fake, but I'm like, but these are all just tools that we have. And you're right. I'm going to practice diminishing this work in whatever form and whatever tools start to appear, because it is important and it's necessary.
It just started a downpour. As you were talking, it's an absolute downpour over here. Like, I don't know if you can hear it, but the rain is coming down so hard.
Really?
Yeah. Right. It's like the backup sounds to what you were saying. It was like, cue up, a whole downpour. But I think that there is a growing awakening. Here's the thing, the words, the power of utterance, right? Utterance has a power. The things we say to ourselves, the things we say to our children, the things we say to our parents, the words we've heard. There is a power in the words we speak. Poets know this, writers know this, artists know this, but even with that knowing, you can't filter out all of the word that comes to mind is garbage. You can't filter out all the falseness all at once. It's too much, right? There's waves of, false things that are around. And we are experiencing people who are not willing to replicate these problems we've had in the past. And I think the main problem is denying our interconnectedness, that we are one people on this globe. Yes, we've had this experience and that experience, and all of that. But the undeniable nature of our interconnectedness with this pandemic has really made clear, even though we still running and ripping and running and trying to act like it's not, the connection between the individual, the community, the institutions which have been failing us left and right, and which we're now trying to build new ones. It don't make a mystic out of anybody. I don't care how, nose to the grindstone, whatever, because what you're going to do when the whole thing's it's not working. It is no longer working, whether you were good at it or you weren't good at it. Everybody is, I think, look at the changes we've seen, now that I'm old enough to say 10 years. When you can look back at yourself 10 years ago or 5 years ago, look at the rapid changes that we've experienced. So, with another group of people, I was recently reflecting how the technology that makes us so able to connect instantly also causing all the chaos, right? Because now I can tell somebody in China, nah, no, B, you wrong. Like boom, I can just blow up their whole thing. The way that we can use it, we're still sifting through. But I think the awareness that we're interconnected and that we do have within us abilities that have barely been scraped, barely been touched, that we've been ignoring and putting to the side and trying to fit in to this larger picture, that there's indeed great capabilities there. And that it's not just for you, that it's not just, yes, you use it obviously on yourself to get yourself where you need to be so you can be of service and help in the world, but that we have this connection. And what is art? Art is bringing something from the unseen world into the seen world. You're fortunate it comes through you. And if you can purify that channel, it comes through, in a form that you will appreciate rather than say, what the heck is this and why is this coming through? Right? Although we still say that still happens. And it's interesting because when I was at Hedgebrook and I felt for the first time this no pressure, and I just, because my first residency, I was like, all right, when I leave here, I'll have everything done and I'll never have to work again because the whole thing will be done. But no, Hedgebrook was like, okay, yes. And I allowed myself the luxury of sitting and meditating, of praying and singing. And I was wondering why the song that was coming was Swing Low. And I'm not a singer, mind you, just in my own personal trying to purify. Swing Low kept coming. I'm like, well, that's interesting. How are my elders doing? What's going on with my aunties? Are they okay? My elders and my family. Why is that song coming? Why is Wade in the Water coming? Never dreaming. I thought it was a personal thing. Okay, what's going on in my life? What's going on with my people? Is there something I should be frightened of? Never dreaming that it was a global reverberation. Why Swing Low in March of 2020? And these are the things I think that people who are attuned to their artistry, ignore it at your own peril. Brush it to the side. So we do minimize because we don't really, what are you going to say? I'm in my cabin and I'm singing a song. How do you translate that to people? You have to find your piece with that and find where does that work in your practice? How do you share that expression? What were you supposed to extract from that? Right? Beyond just your own experience as you're there. And I think that's that translation work that artists do, and why it goes into so many different genres. Why you're not just staying in your one lane writing this one kind of book. Why you also have a film. Why you also have, an exhibition. Why you want to work with other artists. Why another artist said something that was so crucial to you. And they might not even know it was just one sentence. They don't know you took that sentence and now you're like, oh my goodness. You can even forget who said it sometimes, but you knew you needed that piece. So when you're piecing together from the unseen world as well as what's already been manifested, as well as the work that's been gifted to us, by the greats, the words that we return to. I watched one of your videos too, Amber, and I really liked it. Yes. Ooh. You were talking about Elvis Presley.
Oh, and my boobs. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Everything was working together.
It's one of my.
I really love that. I mean, that was awesome. I mean, it just feels good to be in community and to look, to be able to see the connections are everywhere. On the flyer you said connections. Mm-hmm. There's so many. I mean, those are just the ones you find out. Imagine the connections there that we don't even discover. And I think that's what people who have decided art is the way, that this is what I should be doing, are able to gather those little gems and put them together and present it. Put all those, you're not just there having all those thoughts about the little black girl you talked to who didn't know who Elvis was, or kind of knew, but didn't have anything to do with her, and bringing those insights. So anyway, all right, let me just bring it down a little.
I could talk to y'all, quote money long, for hours and hours, hours and hours. This has been so great. And I'm like, I want to ask you more about your projects. I want to ask more about, but I've already kept you longer than I said it was going to last. We have some people out there who have been listening. I hope that this has been full of joy for you. It's been full of joy for me. And I want to explicitly ask, can you gift us one more thing? Will you think, is there something that you do consistently to feed your joy? Do you have a joy food practice that you could share with us? Samantha's grinning. I feel like Samantha ready to go.
My joyful practice is so boring. And boring in the sense that
Practices are, though, right?
it's so personal and so simple, but it's so really when I can really scratch out 30 minutes to myself in the morning, like at least 30 minutes. And this is a 30 minutes where I do whatever I want. The kids, my husband knows to keep the kids away. And I find that all I really want to do in that moment is sit with my breath. And it sounds woo woo. But it's like the breath has become like my best friend. It's just understanding the different ways that I can breathe and how delicious that feels. And so like, during that like breath love, I don't even know what to call it, breath love session, all these, it creates like a container for like a lot of inner goodness. So sometimes I'll just sit, and I was telling Moon about this, that I do this sort of meditation where I start picturing people that I love in my mind, almost like a flashes of like each person it's like a second, and then I move on to the next person. And it's just, by the end of it, ugly crying. It brings me so much joy when I think about, I'm not even thinking about them. It's really just like practicing, my visualization. And I surround everyone with light that I see. And then I think about these people, or I just visualize them. And some transmission happens where like just the memories that I hold with them and the times that I've had with them, even though I'm not like consciously thinking about it, like all of that starts to rise up to the surface. So it's like a type of meditation that I do that brings a lot of joy in the present, where it's like it's still allowing me to like swirl around in the past, but I'm still very present with it. So it creates like this timelessness, like a joke that Moon and I might have shared. And like, I don't know what will come up out of these visualizations. That brings me so much joy. And like, the thing is like, once I'm able to do these things for myself in the morning, then I carry that joy into the rest of my day, and it amplifies everything else. Because then what happens is, something my kid will say to me just is extra funny because I'm just extra present with my joy. So it just becomes, it's a joy generator, basically. It's my moment to sit with myself in my space with my breath and like allow what comes up to come up. Sometimes it's a visualization. Sometimes I just start praying. Sometimes I just start singing out of nowhere. It always surprises me what happens when I just sit with my breath. I never know. So that's like the gas that fills my tank for the day, for sure.
That was the first thing that came to my mind as well, something similar, because I've been walking. There's a really steep hill by my house here, and I've been walking. But as I'm walking, it's a walking meditation. And because I don't have the discipline, I've tried it, to get up early and do the thing that you're saying. I had all kind of plans, and I had place downstairs in the basement, and I'd wake up and be like, I'm gonna sleep another half hour, knowing that if I am to get up, it would actually be so helpful. But I would walk and be able to run those little tiny pieces of prayers, and the people come to mind. The friends come to mind. It could be someone 15 years ago, somebody, but it's a very similar thing. And of course the breathing is like, because it's a hill, it's a really steep hill, and everybody in the neighborhood's like, there she go again, but that there's a scripture that I love that says, and it's related to what you were saying about trying to control things and becoming a magnet and all of that. It's a really scary one, and I love it. It says, whatsoever is revealed by thee is the desire of my heart and the beloved of my soul. Right? So I'm translating that as what happens, when you're trying, not when you're going around doing bad stuff, not when you're what was that show? What was that? The Netflix, the Swindler. Did you see this show? I'm sorry, this is ridiculous.
The
One of those
Tinder
guys I was
swindler?
dating, like not when you're running around doing bad stuff, but when you're focusing on good things, whatsoever is revealed, what happens, right? What the universe brings you, what the Great Spirit brings you, what God brings you, whatever you're calling it, is the desire of my heart and the beloved of my soul. And I say that's scary because no, it's not the beloved of my soul when I put, the chicken broth in the smoothie. Like that is not the beloved of my soul, right? I was making a smoothie for my kids. I'm running around doing things. But that lack of control that we have over certain things and that certainty that it is right, no matter if it feels right or it feels like this is the worst thing, that this is a mess up of the highest magnitude, I should have done it this way, all of those things. Like, yes, when my effort is pure and when I'm trying, it is what should happen. And it either will be revealed to me later, I might never know it. When we're lucky, we see, oh, this is why that happened. This thing that I thought was supposed to happen and didn't, and I pushed for it and it never happened. And now it's happening in a better way than it could have. So just that kind of one scripture about, I can't possibly know. I think I know what's the beloved of my soul. I think I know what I want right now. I think I know what is my joy. But it's actually, I do know some, but it's limited. There's actually way more. So that opening up and acceptance of we're doing what we should be doing. Of course, we always want to improve, not to give excuses to be slouching around, although you got to slouch sometimes. But anyway, similar thing.
You gotta chill.
That time you carve out to breathe, to feel, to look, to look at the nature around us and all the possibility that the day can bring.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. What you're saying, that time you carve out, like that's actually it. Like that's what makes it so joyous, because that time doesn't come easily, because we're conditioned to put everything first.
Oh my gosh.
Right? So that's actually the horse that comes before the cart, is the self. Is, am I cool? Like, am I okay? Like, what's up? The way we check in with our homegirls, like, how do we check in with ourselves? So it's just all the love that we give through our people, we turn that inward, and like you be your own homegirl, your own best friend. And I feel like that carving out time, like that effort, and I love that too, like pure effort, pure intention, pure heart, make your effort. It doesn't have to be your best. You just try, show up. I love it.
Wow. Singing my life with his words. Oh man, y'all. Thank you so much. Like I said, I could keep going. Thank you, Liz and Samantha, for joining me. This was even better than I thought when I was like, they don't know each other. I'm gonna put them together. We're gonna talk about it. If you would like to revisit this conversation or share it with someone, you can find the video on Hedgebrook's YouTube channel, and an audio version will soon be available to you, hopefully wherever you find podcasts. We'll see about that. We'll get it up somewhere and we'll let you know about it. This series is presented free of charge for our community and is supported by donations from listeners like you. And as an act of radical reciprocity, if you make a donation today, at any point today, we'll enter you in a raffle for a ticket to the kickoff event for our first ever inaugural Hedgebrook Writers Conference in September. Have y'all heard about this? You're going to hear about it. I'm going to talk to you about it. Or if you decide to participate in the whole conference as a writer, it can be $25 off your conference registration. So once again, thank you, Liz and Samantha. I learned so much from you. I'm so glad you joined me today. And when your projects are coming out, please make sure we know so that we can share the word and you can come back and talk about your work a little bit more, as well as your joy, because I always want to hear about the joy. All right, y'all.
Thank you so much, Amber. This was amazing.
Thank you, Amber. You made it so easy too.
I'm so glad. Let's see if I can make it easy to come out too. Let's see.